Beginning transmission 134. Battle code. File under Robert Kirkman Books.
Come on, you fuckers think that just because a guy reads comics he can't start some shit? I'll fucking take all you want!
Welcome to this week's episode of the Funny Books and Firewater podcast.
面白い本と歌手ポッドキャストの今週のエピソードへようこそ。
Ignore her. She drinks.
Each week, a motley band of comic readers / amateur bartenders attempt to pair cocktails with comic books.
毎週漫画の読者の雑多なバンドはスラッシュアマチュア入札しようと漫画とペアカクテルバーです。
All while trying to not sound like complete morons in the
すべ
process.
ての中にしようとして音ではないような完了プロセスで低能です。
Kind of like a speakeasy kind of thing. It's kind of cool.
You can find these idiots on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr.
Facebook、Twitter、Instagram や Tumblr にこれらのバカを検索できます。
No, what?
You read too many comic books.
We now join Brian, Jeremiah, Adam, and Todd.
They're used to curious sights which they attribute to alcoholic delusions.
They may be drinkers, Robin, but they're also human beings.
I'm too sober for this shit. Here is a drinking game to play while you listen to this episode. Please drink responsibly, and don't take it too seriously. And if you don't like it, blame William.
Take a drink anytime Mr. Porg decides to interject himself into the conversation. Shut up, Porg.
You need to take a drink anytime Manny Bothands makes an appearance, and I get groans and fuck yous from Adam and Maya.
Fuck Manny Bothan!
Manny Bothan is pure genius. Take a drink anytime someone refers to me as the cum dumpster.
Take a drink every time the Shame Bell makes an appearance.
Also, take a drink anytime we act like the Member Berries from South Park. Remember when they were on South Park?
I remember.
Yeah, and take a drink every time we do the bad German accent, yeah.
Ah, drink, fucker!
If you have any suggestions for rules you would like to add, email us at funnybooksandfirewater@gmail.com or use the contact link on our website, funnybooksandfirewater.com.
Hi, Poppy.
That's where we start. Thanks, Adam, for the eye poppy just to start out with. Hey, and welcome to episode 134. We're starting our month of Robert Kirkman Books because it's his birthday month. I don't know. We might have interviews for this month. We might not, depending on how it all goes. So I don't know if I'm going to leave any of that in or not. It might get cut out.
Do you think we plan any of this stuff?
I know.
Planning.
Well, we plan far enough ahead that, when one of us has a kid, we can still, keep the show showing up on time. Not that that's about to happen or anything like that.
No, I appreciate that. So I will say I've got everyone terrified of what I'm actually going to name this kid.
I know,
And
which I think is really funny.
I'm now getting Snapchats from Lauren, my sister niece, going, yeah, no stupid names on your kid.
Snatch chats?
I know.
Wow. From his sister niece.
I know, isn't that great?
Only in Utah would that totally make sense.
I have a sister niece and a brother kid. No joke.
That's true.
And I used to be your brother kid's boss.
You were my brother kid's boss.
He was a sweet boy.
Yeah, but now he's in Happy Valley and he drank all the Kool-Aid. Yeah.
I got asked about the Mormon thing yesterday at work, actually.
Dude, it's being mocked so heavily, and one Mormon is such an asshole.
One
yes.
specific one.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I have some. We can talk about that off the air or during our break. I have some weird info on that.
Panel intro.
Cool. So we have not only our standard accoutrement, but we have an extra friend, extra special friend, romantic. I know. But we will get to you last, as we normally do with our special guests. But we will start out with Mr. Mormon himself, Todd. I don't know why I just threw under the bus that way, but I did.
Mr. Mormon himself.
Does your atheist group know about that?
Apparently not. Oh my god.
I still need to go to that, actually.
Yeah, you do.
Oasis?
Yeah, one of their events.
Yeah, there's some good stuff there. Hi, I'm Todd. You can find me here in Salt Lake, not going to church. Let's just be clear about that. And it makes my dad cry inside, but they'll just be the good example.
And outside, too, I'm
I was going to say better inside than outside.
I know, right? So you can find me here as a co-panelist on Funny Books and Firewater. I'm also on the English Class Hooligans podcast with my better half, Amy.
Hi, Amy.
And the cat wrangler himself, Brian, who's also talking a lot.
Hi, Brian.
Hey.
I do talk a lot.
I know. It's great. That's why we love you. And you do all the production work, which makes it great because I just show up and talk.
The other reason why we record these in advance is so I have enough time to do that and actually still live my life.
That's true. So I'm here in Salt Lake. If you see me, come say hi. And I'll just look at you funny and going, what?
You're famous, man.
Who the fuck
I
are
am
you?
famous? I'm not even YouTube famous.
We could make that happen. Actually, we're doing pretty well on YouTube, oddly enough. We're getting a few subscribers. Every once in a while I get a notification on YouTube. Because to be honest with you, I put it on YouTube just because I'm like, oh, fuck it, I can, and it's easy, I'll do it. Yeah. But we get a few subscribers, and I got like a notification the day of a new subscriber. So hi, everybody on YouTube. How are you? If this was, I would say it's not a visual medium, although it is on YouTube, but we're recording an audio podcast. I'm waving at you, but you can't see me. So the irony is not beyond me. So
Xtube.
Xtube?
Xtube, yeah.
I thought it was Hamster.
X-Hamster, yeah.
Yeah. Hamster.
Dadpuppy.com.
We don't talk about that.
Xvideos.com is another
The
one.
star of Bad Puppy himself, we have Mr. Adam.
Hey!
Yes!
What's up, everyone? I am the reviews editor and film critic for Big Shiny Robot.
At least it's not cinema.
Hey there! Are you queer or some variation of it? Well, I'm Chris, and this is my co-host,
Adam, and welcome to Cinema Queens, where we talk about queer cinema.
Each week, we watch beloved queer classics, discuss them, review them,
and cover a whole cluster of topics from our favorite scenes,
what they mean to us,
how it relates to our current world,
and the best part, the cherry on top of the sundae, happens to be
gay rants!
So prepare your ear holes!
And listen to us Queens talk cinema. New episodes drop every Monday on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Bye-bye! And I've kickstarted off things with Borders Up Podcast with Andy Wilson again.
Hi, Andy Wilson again.
Then, of course, as we've already mentioned, Cinema Queens with our good friend Chris Stout.
Hi, Chris.
And also curating our Scruff Grinder and Types with a Z account.
Yes.
And back from New York, our returning champion, we have Mr. Maya.
Hey, I'm Maya. I do things on the internet. Come follow me on Twitter at Mr. Maya or Instagram at the Mr. Maya. Let's talk about things.
And bursting his podcast cherry, I think. Are we your first?
You are, yes.
Oh,
hey, I'm sorry.
We're taking his podcast virginity. We have my buddy, Mr. Jason.
Hi there. I'm in Los Angeles and happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Can we say you're a freelance writer? Is that what we can say your job title is?
Freelance writer in Los Angeles. Most recently, I was the writer's assistant for the third season of Daredevil.
Yes.
Wow,
which also means
fancy.
that off the air, people are going to be trying to ask you info, just so you've been forewarned.
I'm okay with
that.
Yeah, I figured as much. He has not spoiled much to me, dear people who are listening, who may, employ him and myself, actually.
Just don't leave any of your social media stuff up, and then you'll be fine. So
yeah, it's true. That's very true. Anyway, and hey, I'm Brian. I'm a sound designer based in Southern California. I do a lot of things that I can't talk about, which is why we don't talk about them now. Or ever, really. Yeah. I mean, I basically, there's like a month in the summer where I talk about what I'm doing because it's the one project I can talk about. Other than that, I don't talk about it at all.
You make sound happen.
I do. I make sound happen in all sorts of interesting ways. And depending on when this comes out, I might officially be a grad student by the time this comes out, which is pretty exciting as well.
Hey.
Yeah, my final piece of paperwork, my letter of recommendation, which I texted a friend of mine and said, okay, they're going to ask you for a letter of recommendation. Just lie and say I'm wonderful, which was pretty awesome. So that might be a thing as well. So if that's the case, that'll be fun.
Brian, I'd lie and say you're wonderful anytime.
Oh, I appreciate it, sweetie. I really do.
See, I wouldn't be lying.
Oh, that's because I paid you $20.
Gave him a dirty halo.
Yeah.
Poor Jason. He's never going to do a podcast ever again.
Do you guys want to explain what Dirty Halo is, Todd? Because you started this.
Oh, that was before we started recording.
Before we started recording, yeah. Todd?
So while I was looking for different drinks or things, I thought Dirty Halo, with reference to what we're going to talk about, was a pretty good name. So I plummeted into the bowels of Urban Dictionary, and I found out that Dirty Halo is a modified version of the 69. So while you're enjoying said motions, you shove your head into the anus area and proceed to motorboat with your forehead, which will leave a stinky smudge right on the forehead, which is said Dirty Halo. Sorry, Jason. I'm glad
they have a name for
I'm just
everything.
glad someone out there has found what they enjoy and are happy with it.
See, that's a very LA attitude of like, hey man, that's pink, man, whatever.
Whatever you're into,
like,
it's all cool with me.
Yeah, you've changed, man.
No kink shame here.
So anyway, so cool. So we are reading Battle of Pope. I'm sort of doing the Robert Kirkman month. Actually, we are doing the Robert Kirkman month in chronological order, but this is one of my gateway drugs. Also insanely blasphemous, and also part of the reason why I think Jason would have appreciated this book is because I remember Jason having an idea for something not similar, but probably equally as blasphemous when we were in school together. A great little screenplay. Did you ever actually write that?
No, I never actually got around to it, but this is definitely scratched that itch.
I remember you making a few fake posters for Sheldon Christ.
Sheldon Q. Christ, that's correct.
Sheldon Q. Christ, yes. I threw in my own 2 cents on that one a few times, but that was the blasphemous little side story we had. But anyway, so...
Book intro.
The non-spoilery heads up about what this book is about. Also, if you're Catholic, you're probably going to hate this book.
Just a little bit.
Maybe or you'll love it. I don't know. I mean, it depends on what kind of Catholic you are, I guess. So basically what's happened is the second coming is come. All the good people have gone up to heaven. All the bad people are still hanging out down here with the rest of us, especially people who listen to this podcast. I'm sorry, you're still here. God decides that, he probably should at least do something to help his people out. So he calls on to the world's worst pope, the pope who was whoring and sleeping and drinking around. And so...
like you do.
I thought that was the Borgias.
Sorry, that was a historical reference. I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right.
Oh, yeah, that was
fair.
The naughty pope.
He was the naughty pope.
Okay, so that basically the Pope is now on a quest to defeat hell and try to bring a little bit of sanity and goodness back to the earth. Does that sound like a fair, non-spoilery answer?
Yeah.
What this book is about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Myification.
Mr. Maya, you have been gone. And I know this is an image book. I don't know if it actually has a classification on it. Oh, it does. But what is the myification for this book? This might become the Toddification because he did a really good job while you were gone.
Todd, you do it on this.
Todd, what's the Toddification of this?
It's a warning to people sensitive to having their, their religious foibles tickled.
Foibles tickled.
That's right. And
it's a foible tickling action adventure is what it is.
It really is. And 12-year-old me is just giddy with how dirty it is. And reading this book is, if you're 12 and you read this book, I mean, this is designed, the art and everything. It's like reading a Penthouse for the first time. It's fantastic.
I've never read one.
Well, I can break your cherry on that. I'm sure they sell them somewhere. Do they?
Actually, if you're 12 years old reading this, you have horrible parents.
I know, it's the best kind. I'm going to be an awesome dad.
Drinking game.
As we get started with every week, we are going to jump into our drinking games. Mr. Todd, since you were the last one to speak, what is your drinking game rule?
Mine's called the Cursed Halo. Every time you see a halo, a blue halo, is it blue or purple? I never know. Every time. I am colorblind, so will you tell me?
There it's kind of pinkish.
All right. Every time you see the halo on the rag, you need to go ahead and take a drink.
The dirty halo.
The dirty halo.
Dirty halo is what you're calling it. Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Actually, we're just going to throw you into the fray. Mr. Jason, what is your drinking game rule?
Mine is the shirt says what, and anytime you can read the writing on a shirt, usually it's worn by Jesus, but if it's also worn by, I think, the groundskeeper at the graveyard, take a drink.
I love Daddy's Little Angel the best out of all of them.
Mine is called HE double hockey sticks. Every time hell is referenced, take a drink. Mr. Adam, what is yours?
Mine's called Blasphemy, Blast for you, Blast for everybody in the room, which hopefully everyone gets that reference. Anytime there's something that's extremely blasphemous in here, like when the Pope's fucking someone or it's just horrible. And again, like we've done with my past drinks, just do it once per page, not per panel.
That could get ugly very quickly. And Mr. Maya, what is your drinking game rule?
I'm also going to limit mine to once per page, but it's called... Man, the apocalypse is bloody. Anytime there's a gory page, take a drink.
I have the drink for you.
I tried writing it down by hand instead of typing it into my phone. I think I'm actually faster on my phone than I am in writing it by hand, which is really sad and really weird.
Because your fingers are cramping up from using muscles you're not used to.
Dude, okay, so today I was at the gym, and I felt like I was in a Bruce Lee movie. He had, like, basically, like, two halves of a pool noodle, and he was clapping them together back and forth in front of his face, and I had to punch through between the two pool noodles and then pull my hand back before they clapped back together again. And, like, that was what I had to do all day. And, like, I felt like I was in a Bruce Lee movie. It was it was fun, actually.
Get any concussions lately?
No, because I've been smart enough to put my phone on vibrate, or on Do Not Disturb when I'm at the gym. I'm also smart enough not to tell you when I'm at the gym because I know that what you would do would just start texting me like a meme every 5 seconds for the entire
that's
hour.
How it works.
Exactly.
Validity votes.
Let us jump into votes. I don't know if I warned you about this, Jason. This is basically a yes or no if you believe that it is worth people taking their hard-earned time and money and effort to go hunt this book down and read it themselves. I'll give you a second to think about it since I don't know if I warned you about that beforehand. So we will start with Mr. Adam.
Yes, it was a lot of fun.
I'm a yes. This was one of my gateway drugs into comics. I really enjoyed it. Mr. Maya.
Nah, you don't need to read this.
Okay. Mr. Todd.
Yes, childish me loved every minute of it.
And Mr. Jason.
Mine is yes if you don't want to go too deep.
If you don't want to go too deep?
Correct.
Meaning what, out of curiosity? Like, meaning don't read into it too much?
No, it's just, it's a whole lot of fun, but it's just very surface level for me.
Oh, 10-4. I got you. Yeah, it's a popcorn movie kind of comic.
Exactly, completely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Final warnings.
Does anybody have any final warnings before we send these people on their way to sort of start reading this book?
Just that it's, if you're religious and you believe in it strongly, this is very offensive. So.
But then again, why are you listening to this show?
Well, you know,
they go to confession
some people
tomorrow.
like to be challenged. Well, there's that too, yeah. Yes, so you have been forewarned. And there's your other warning. When we come back from our little bit of a break, we're going to be spoiling the living crap out of it. So just so you've been forewarned, that's coming on the other side. So we will see you on the flip side.
If you have yet to read this week's book and would like to read it now, press pause. Go ahead. We'll wait.
At Push My Buttons podcast, you can get all the gaming news, information on latest releases, game reviews, and you can even watch us play some of your favorite games. Everything from Sonic the Hedgehog to God of War on YouTube and Twitch. Follow us on all the social media and listen on all your favorite apps. Just search for Push My Buttons podcast.
My stroller I bought showed up.
Ooh, how did that feel? You're starting to feel like an adult yet?
No. You know, I think one of the most pointless question I've been asked, though, is, so do you think you're ready to be a dad? And
I think you're going to be a fine dad.
I think I'll be fine, but I just look at them and was like, that question is so immaterial. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
if I'm ready or
yeah.
not.
You're going to be one whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I'm like, what does that matter? And they're like, I think my best part, though, is my older brother says, a year from now, you're just going to have this crying and shitting baby all over the place. And I just looked at him without missing a beat. It's like, oh, Kent. Yes, my brother's name is Kent. It's like, I have a designer baby. Check the box where that part doesn't happen.
and in like 3 or 4 years, you have someone to go get you a beer out of the fridge.
I know.
Teach him how to make drinks young.
Yes.
Not to drink, but how to make drinks.
That's right.
Like the kids in Mad Men.
I was just thinking of that, actually. And then she grows up to be Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Yep. Dude, that looks so
trailer
looks
looks
awesome.
I'm excited about that.
Jason, I'm very public. We went through IVF. So I did multiple rounds of in vitro to get my wife pregnant. So that's why it's designer baby.
That makes sense.
Because I spent all the money ahead of time.
My favorite is when they said, so you're going to have a kid, and I think your response is always, it was a group effort.
Oh, this was fantastic. So we did 4 rounds. On round number 4, there were 3 interns that wanted to join in on the implantation day. We said, we're over everything.
Wait, what?
I know.
Can you elaborate on that? What does that mean?
So what it was is like, yeah, come on in and come and watch. And I shit you not, they're like, just for your warned, 2 of them are identical twins. So I'm like, all right, that's fine. And then they come in, and they can't be more than 21-year-old Asian twin women.
Okay.
So, and there was another woman watching it, and it was fine. And there was the doctor, and then there was the lab tech, and then there was the assistant, and I was there in my bright orange scrub thing looking, oh, isn't this a romantic? And it was Goza, and people would go, "Oh, so how'd you make the baby?" I'm like, "Yeah, it was a group effort. Asian twins were involved." As it goes. And they look at me, and they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "I'm not kidding."
And that's how your child was conceived.
Yes, I'm like, I'm not kidding. It's like this Asian twin women were involved. I didn't even know their names, but I know. I didn't even ask their names. It didn't seem important at the
It was
time.
Fook you and Fook me.
Oh, Jesus.
Thank you, Adam.
Oh, my God.
Future Brian, you may want to...
That one I'm cutting out.
It was your Austin Powers.
Yeah, but here's the thing, man. Like, I wouldn't typically cut shit out, but that one I'm probably going to cut out just for your sake.
At least we're not cinema queens.
So I love that, Todd, at some point in time, your kid's going to ask, where do babies come from? And you're going to be like, well, you go into a sterile room. Asian twins have to be involved.
Where do regular babies come from, or where did you come from?
I'm going to save a recording of this, and I'm going to give it to her on her 18th birthday.
Oh, it's so great. All right, so Jason, I'm also going to tell you this one. So people name their kids ridiculous names.
Right.
This happens everywhere. And they often uses letters that don't make those sounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you take this to the absolute logical conclusion? So in order to do this, it's like, what do you think of naming the kid? And I write it down for them. And what I write down is the numeral 1 with a comma, numeral 2 with a comma, numeral 3 with a comma, the numeral 5, comma, 8, comma, 13. And I just look at, then I hand it over to them, and they're looking at this, and they're like, what is this? And I'm like, well, it's pronounced Fibonacci.
Oh, man. You're going to give so many bad dad jokes, I can already tell.
It's going to be so good. And the thing is, they look at me like, are you serious? They're not quite sure if I'm serious or not. And I'm like, all right, I'm just taking this forever. And they're like, oh, so what are you really going to name the kid? It's like, well, my father-in-law is named Glade. So there's names like Meadow, but I rather like Scenic Byway. What do you think of Scenic Byway? It's all good times. He's like, what about Aubrey? I'm like, no, Aubrey's been done.
What about off-ramp?
Off-ramp or on-ramp. I'm not sure which one's worse.
What about underpass?
Underpass, yeah.
Both kind of slutty names.
Parkway, yeah.
You can always go with the Green Ivy.
Traffic Jam.
Ooh, yeah. Road furniture.
Yes.
That's what, if you ever watch the Tour de France, every time there's like a roundabout or there's like a medium in the center of the road with like plants in it or whatever, they always refer to it as road furniture, which I just think is a funny phrase.
Yeah.
Turnpike.
So anyway. For what?
Turnpike.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Turnpike.
That's a good one.
Oh.
I like that one.
Yeah, but if she ends up being gay, that's just going to lead to a really bad nickname.
Or the best.
Well, she already has her haircut ahead of time. I know exactly what her Turnpike's haircut looks like.
She drives a RAV4, has a lot of dogs.
I can picture it now.
It's always carrying a U-Haul around.
That's right.
The sad thing is I'll probably leave those jokes in, but I'll cut out Adam.
Bitch.
That's right.
Hey, at least we're not cinema queens.
That's right. No Les Baru for you.
I think it's... That'll be your nickname. I think it's really funny that we ended up doing Battle Pope and there's a bunch of Jesus in this because we actually talked about fucking Jesus in the last episode of Cinema Queens.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Has that episode come out yet?
Yes, it actually came out today.
Have you gotten any mail yet?
No.
Who should they send the mail to?
cinemaqueens@gmail.com.
Okay.
M-A-I-L or M-A-L-E?
Yes.
I had a girl who kept trying to send me email like early on in computer days because I am that old, and she kept trying. I had a Hotmail account, and she kept trying to send it to HOTMALE, and I wasn't getting it. So yeah, it was that was very amusing. I was a little flattered as well, but it was amusing that it wasn't getting to where it's going.
So just your hotmail.com MALE does exist, but all it is a smiley face.
That's disappointing.
Plot summary.
Mr. Adam, do you want to give us a quick summary of this book? I mean, there's not a lot to it, to be honest with you. It's just a lot of blasphemy.
Yeah, basically what happens is that the Pope, the guy is elected Pope, but he says, like, I'm a bad Pope. He likes to go fuck around and do horrible things. God comes back and says, I'm going to take all the righteous people to heaven. None of y'all are righteous. Y'all fucked. So then he goes away, and then the gates of hell are opened up. The demons come and start a war with humanity. To stop the losses, they sign a truce. So some demons still live in Earth, but then The gates to hell have been closed. The battle pope gets taken up. He gets in a fight, gets killed, goes to heaven, and God's like, well, you can't come to heaven, but if you take Jesus with me, go to earth, and then you have to rescue the Archangel Michael from Lucifer, I'll let you into heaven. Yeah, so that happens. So he goes back to earth. With Jesus, he goes to try to fight Lucifer. You find out Lucifer, what he wants is Michael's halo, because I will combine with his devil horns powers will make him invincible, like more powerful than God. So they get there after fighting these like weird zombie-ass demon creatures. The Pope gets killed right when Lucifer gets the halo on, gets sent to hell. He actually tries to make the best of it. He's been there for a couple months. He finally gets back to Earth and finds out, oh, hey, I've been gone for 17 seconds. So God gives him his own halo to make him superpowered. He goes, has a big battle with Lucifer, and then Lucifer blowed up real good because he's a demon, he can't handle having a halo power. He goes up there, and God comes down and says, oh, hey, yeah, that was the whole thing. I just wanted you to rescue Michael because I knew all along that the halo wouldn't work for him. And then says, you can come to heaven now. And then the Pope's like, no, I need to go back to Earth and fight and do that kind of stuff because that's what's expected of me. And that's pretty much the book.
Tell me about Jesus.
Okay. Jesus, I love Jesus.
Talk about... Was that for Jason? I think Todd was asking you to talk about Jesus, Jason.
For me to talk about Jesus?
Yeah, tell me about Jesus.
He's essentially a stoner bro who is just trying to go through life, man, and it's all gone to shit, man. And he's just trying to live and just be okay. And occasionally he pulls out a gun and explodes a whole bunch of undead zombies. Yeah, because he's sort of realizes that, oh, I kind of have powers. Weird.
Yeah, my kind of guy.
It's also one of those things where it almost feels like his dad, he's like the son of someone famous, and he's like, well, I have like a lot to live up to, so I'm just going to kind of roll with it. But like, it's sort of like this weird slacker. He reminds me of a lot of people I've met in LA. I will say that.
Yes.
as we both have, I am sure.
Mm-hmm. He reminded me of the dude.
Cool. A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Later in the book, he becomes more like in future issues, because there's about 4 trades of this book. I've read all 4 blasphemous volumes. He gets a little like 5-year-old-y. Like he gets a little like just wants to sit around and eat cereal and watch cartoons kind of thing, which is also sort of a stoner bro dude kind of thing as well.
Brad Pitt from True Romance, that kind of guy.
Yeah, kind of like that for sure. Yeah, what was the name of the motel they stay in? Is that the Safari Inn?
I think so. I can't remember.
Jason, is that the same one that's down the street from Warner Brothers Studios? Like in Burbank?
It might be the one on Olive.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
I drove by and I was like, I wonder if that's the same place. I keep forgetting to go look it up, but I drove by a couple days ago and I totally forgot. I took my parents on the Warner Brothers tour. So
it is the Safari Inn. You nailed it.
Wow, see, there we go. Is that the same one?
1911 Olive Boulevard near Buena Vista.
Hells yes, I'm good. Holy shit! Sorry, I'm gonna pause for a moment and pat myself on the back. I might throw out a shoulder of some kind. I'm so proud of myself.
Analysis.
I mean, what are people's thoughts, Todd? What are your thoughts? To start
so this was really one of you talk about being gateway drug of comics, and I remember one of my visits out to you when I was just reading all sorts of stuff. I read this one. I read The Boys. I read Preacher. And I read one other one by you, and I'm just like, oh, this shit is awesome. Why? I need it.
Were those all in my collection?
These are all in your collection. Oh, and
you read all the dirtiest shit that I had.
Transmetropolitan. I read those.
Oh yeah. Wow, that is quite an assortment. Holy crap!
It was awesome, and they all scratch different itches for sure.
Yeah,
one of them made you itch down there.
That would be Transmetropolitan made me itch.
That's what I was going to say too. Yeah,
that one definitely left the rash there. But with this one, and I keep referencing to my pubescent boyhood. I mean, you take a look at the artwork, you just take a look at the lowbrow level of humor, and it's just funny, and it's poking fun at stuff that should be serious, or a lot of people take serious, and it's just like, this shit's funny. You really need to make light of it because why not? Why not? It's there. And so it's a gas because we're like, oh, this is offensive. And I'm like, rereading it again, the Coyote Ugly incident with the demon. That's got to be my part. And where the cross is made in Taiwan, prominently displayed.
Oh, I missed that, but okay.
Yeah, I see that made in Taiwan. And even the, as Jason had mentioned, the different worded shirts of Jesus and Daddy's Little Angel, and I'm just like, good grief, this is just great. It's all surface funny stuff, but it's fantastic. It's one of Kirkman's earlier works, and reading up on this, it was originally just black and white. This colored reprints was a much later down the line thing that happened. This first came out just in inks.
Yeah, I think, and Maya can correct me on this, I think that when he started doing Walking Dead and Invincible for Image is when they published these through Image, because originally it was through a different, smaller studio,
I have no idea.
and that's when they did the colorization. I think I remember reading that somewhere, so I'm like 90% sure that that's the case, that it had something to do with his starting to work for Image a little bit more exclusively. Because it's interesting now, knowing that he's sort of, he's essentially the president of Image Comics right now, isn't he? Yeah. So it's interesting because like I'm used to seeing, Robert Kirkman as president. It's interesting looking back at this book of him being the writer and not being the president of Image Comics when this book comes out, which it's just interesting with a future insight glowing. The guy who wrote this shit's eventually going to run the company that published it. You know what I mean? Which is kind of funny.
Right, because this isn't his imprint or anything. It predates all of that.
Nope. Yeah, it predates Skybound. It predates a bunch of stuff. So, cool. Mr. Maya, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, I was reading through it and I was very, I don't know. It might have been the state of mind I was in or whatever, but I thought a lot of this book was really forgettable to me. I don't know. I just wasn't digging it. Nothing really stuck out to me. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it. And, next week, if you ask me, remember Battle Pope? I probably wouldn't be able to tell you much about it, which I think is almost worse than hating it. I honestly don't have a whole lot to say about this book because it didn't really leave any kind of impression on me.
To a certain extent, it is sort of like a Mad Magazine sketch that's drawn out over 3 issues.
But,
Good
did come out of this, though. It's, Kirkman and Tony Moore, where they first started working together, and then after this, they went and did Walking Dead. Well, Tony Moore did for the first trade, and now we have Walking Dead. But I wasn't a fan.
There's nothing wrong with that. We still love you.
Like I said, I didn't hate it. I was just, I wasn't underwhelmed. I wasn't overwhelmed. I was just whelmed.
Well, Mr. Jason, how whelmed were you?
Well, I did sort of recommend the book. I will echo some of those statements in that I enjoyed it. I enjoyed reading it, but I do wish that it had delved a little bit more into satirizing some of the hypocrisy of the religion and the church and all of that sort of mythology in the way that it set up the conflicts. But for what it was in just a pure adolescent fantasy, it nails that to a T. So that's, or to a cross, really. So I definitely did enjoy it, but I really wish they had gone a little bit deeper with some of that stuff.
In future issues, they get into a little bit more of the general religious stuff, but not necessarily, I don't think, in a way that you would find satisfying for what your request is. You know what I mean? It still plays in this sort of the sandbox of being sort of juvenile kind of, fun. But so, Adam, knowing that you were not raised Mormon, unlike me and Todd, I'm very curious as to what your thoughts are because you were raised in a religion more closer to Catholicism than I'm used to. So, what's your thoughts?
A little bit. I mean, evangelical Christianity is actually in a lot of ways crazier than LDS religion or anything else.
Yeah.
No, so I didn't know anything about this going in. I just knew it was, a book we recommended. It was Kirkman, that it was kind of satirizing, religion. So I had a lot of fun with it. I mean, I'm kind of with Jason where I kind of wish they would have taken a bigger look at some of the issues that are right now hounding religion, especially the Catholic Church. There's gold mines and stuff you could take on with that. Actually, as we record this last week, South Park did a really great take on it, with the child abuse scandal and everything else. That was horrible and fucked up, but also it's that's kind of how things are going now. The cover-ups and everything else. So I think it could have been smarter, but at the same time, echoing Todd, 12-year-old Adam was having a field day with it. Because it was irreverent, it was funny, violent, sexualized, basically everything a growing boy needs. So, I'm not going to go rush out and get the next book to read. I think what I got out of the first trade will last.
It's enough for you.
Yeah, but I'm glad I read it. It's not one I'm going to go back and revisit anytime soon because there's not too much to get out of it because it's a very simple story. So
okay, that is fair. I mean, does anybody have any specific topics they want to kind of discuss in this book? I mean, the problem is this book is relatively surface level. There's not a lot of depth to it. Like, it's fun, it's jokey, but it doesn't necessarily, there's not a lot of satirization, you know what I mean, as you pointed out. It's
kind of past the synopsis, there really isn't anything deeper to talk about.
Yeah, there really is no metaphor or analogy you can use to be like, oh, they were actually trying to get this point across, when it's like, no, just dick and fart jokes.
There is one mention to Altar Boys.
That's
but just
true.
One.
Yeah. It's very early, isn't it? It's like, at least he wasn't into Altar Boys kind of thing.
Something like that, yeah.
Or then maybe there's two, because at the end, when he's fighting with Lucifer says you should have gone back to your Altar Boy.
Why would Jesus be wearing a Where's the Beef t-shirt now that I'm looking at this?
Why not?
Anyway, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like that joke.
He was hipster before hipster was the thing. Cool,
actually kind of is. He kind of is, to be honest. Jesus in this book is the proto hipster for that's what all LA guys are basing themselves after right now.
Jesus died for your sins before you committed them.
That's true. No, Manny Bothans died for your sins, Adam.
Fuck you. Manny Bothans is pure genius.
That's pretty good.
Cocktails.
So, Mr. Todd, what is your cocktail?
So, mine's a punch, and I'm calling it the Drunk Jesus. So, it's meant for a lot of people. Unless you're determined, then you can enjoy it on your own. So there's a whole list of ingredients here. I mean, there's lemon, there's water, you've got whole cloves, star anise pods, cinnamon sticks, there's freshly grated nutmeg, there's a bottle of dry red wine. I'd go with a Malbec or a Syrah on that one. And there's 18 ounces of port. Get something that's strong and in your face. There's raw sugar, and there's a whole orange quarter tossed in. So this is a punch sangria kind of on steroids.
It sounds like sangria, yeah.
It does, but this guy's pretty awesome. So what you need to do, though, is you need to remove your lemon peel with the vegetable peeler. Try to get a little of the white pith as possible. You only want the peel, not the pith, because the pith is bitter. Quarter the lemon and squeeze juice from 2 of the quarters into a glass measuring cup. You want about 3/4 of an ounce, and reserve the remaining. You want to bring the water to a simmer. Add your cloves, star anise, cinnamon sticks, and nutmeg to the water to make an infusion. Reduce the heat and let it just cook for about 10 minutes. Add your wine, port, sugar, and orange quarters, and the reserved lemon quarters in it as well. Add your lemon juice and the lemon peel, then let that simmer for another 10 minutes. Remove from heat, strain out all the solid bits because nobody wants that. And then you want to heat that for a little while, just keep it warm. And then you want to pour an ounce of rum into each serving mug on top of that, because what we're looking for is a strong sangria here. Top with this hot mulled wine, garnish each with a cinnamon stick and a lemon wheel. So it's kind of hot wassail mixed with sangria with mulled wine all coming together, but guaranteed to make you feel good at the end.
It reminds me of I think it's Family Guy, when he goes to church and he has the blood of Christ and it's wine. And he goes, man, that guy must have been drunk 24 hours a day.
No, it's Family Guy.
That's okay. Well, Mr. Adam, what is your cocktail?
So mine is called the Luicfer. And what it is, it's 1.5 ounces of vodka, 1.5 ounce of peach schnapps, 1.5 ounce of SoCo, 1.5 ounce of gin, 2 ounces of triple sec, 2 ounces of orange juice, and a splash of grenadine. You put that in a shaker with ice, shake the shit out of it, and then straight into a cocktail glass.
That kind of sounds like a Long Island.
It's a little like a Long Island.
California.
Yeah, but you've got the SoCo and the peach, which is a little bit different from a normal Long Island.
Yeah. That's good.
Cool. So my cocktail is called the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. It is 1.5 ounces of Tanqueray gin, 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice, 3/4 of an ounce of red bell pepper reduction. There will be ingredients on making that red bell pepper reduction on our website. I won't go through all of that right now. So 1 ounce of chopped organic celery, 2 large sprigs of basil, 1 cocktail onion, and cracked bell peppers. You basically muddle the celery and 1 cocktail onion. I've never even heard of a cocktail onion before. And 1 basil sprig in a bowl.
It's like a cute little shallot type of a deal. It's those little onion pearls.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. Okay. Fill the shaker with ice and muddled vegetables. Add the liquid ingredients. Shake and strain into a coupe glass. Garnish with basil sprig and a crack of fresh black pepper if on top if you want. Mr. Jason, what is your cocktail?
Mine is a very, very simple drink since I'm not the experienced mixologist you guys are.
Oh, we're not experienced. We just have Google.
I'm calling mine the post-battle Pope. It's just a little bit of pick-me-up to curb that hangover. It's 1 part Red Stag, black cherry whiskey, 1 part club soda, and just a little bit of honey.
Nice.
And Mr. Maya, last but not least.
Yeah, so my drink is called the Francis, which is named after Pope Francis. And it's got an ounce of Fernet Branca, which is an Italian type of...
it's really popular right now for bartenders to like take shots of. So like,
is it?
if you become good friends with a bartender, like when I've done some of the interviews with bartenders that we've had, like it's been a couple of years since we've done it, but when I used to go do the interviews with bartenders, they would always offer me a shot of Fernet Blanc.
I always have Cosby and Fernet Branca stuck in my brain mixed together. On one of his comedy albums, he talked about Fernet Branca.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's an ounce of that, an ounce of aged Moscato Grappa, an ounce of Carpano Antica, which is a red vermouth.
This is a very Italian drink, by the way.
Yeah.
It's half a teaspoon of Benedictine, which is some sort of herbal liqueur. I had to look it up. And 2 dashes of Peychaud's bitters. Stir it with ice and strain it into a rocks glass and garnish with a lemon twist.
Okay.
That is Italian.
That is very Italian. That's super, super Italian.
Parting thoughts.
The story is very surface level. I mean, you can talk about it in the 30 seconds Adam did and pretty much covered the bases there. It's the artwork. I think it really was rather well done. There is that, I keep going back to this juvenile essence about it, but it's just, there is a happiness with this artwork type of a deal. You know, it's kind of like he's thumbing the nose at people and just happy about doing it. And he's like, watch me poke the bear. Isn't this so funny?
It's a little punk rock.
It's a little punk rock going about it, but everyone's having a good time. Even when he's having a bad time, he's having a good time.
Yeah.
And it keeps things very fun and lighthearted, I think is really what happens. Is it's a very lighthearted, apocalyptic, bad behaving main character and storyline. And it's in keeping it, nothing is too serious. So if anyone really does get offended and everything, it's like, dude, this book isn't even serious about itself.
Yeah.
So if people are, I mean, it's one of those things that they're, if you're looking for offense, they can choose to be offended. And even if you are offended, it doesn't mean you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other thoughts? You want to leave it there? Sounds good. We'll leave it there.
Final grades.
This is an A, B, C, A plus, B plus, all that kind of thing, kind of scale. We will start out. We have 3 different regular grades and then 1 overall grade. Our first of our regular grades is
self-contained,
aka how well we feel like this book contains its entire story in itself. And because there are multiple issues, sometimes this becomes an issue. But I think I will say, as far as self-contained goes, I would say this is actually very well self-contained. I'm going to go with an A- on that. As far as self-containment goes, Mr. Todd.
I'll be very close. B plus, A-. I mean, the whole, you tell when he was writing it was going, is this going to be picked up again? I better have a good stopping point.
Yeah, and also, he has 1 page to lead into the next issue. You know what I mean? It's I'm going to go save the world.
Yeah, I'm going to go off and do this, and
bye.
Yeah, bye, if not. So, I mean, he really did a good job, because I think this was his initial story there. It's like, oh, there's more to do now? See what I come up with. But B plus, A-. It was very well self-contained.
Mr. Adam.
Actually, I'll just go with a straight up A on this one, because like I said, I got everything I wanted out of this. If I never read another one again, I feel like I got the whole story, and I'm not worried about, because really, I mean, there aren't really any loose threads. I mean, of course, he says I'm going to go save the world, kind of stuff, but you got what you wanted out of this. So.
Cool, Mr. Jason.
I'd agree with that. I initially felt that it reached its conclusion a lot sooner than I was hoping. I wanted it to continue on, but I like that it left it open for more wacky adventures to continue.
And Mr. Maya?
For being self-contained, I'll give it an 8. I thought it told a story on its own and left it open for more, but not necessarily to the point that you have to read the next one to get this one.
What I will say, though, Maya, is in later issues, the Pope gets it on with Jesus' mom.
It's true.
God gets pissed. It's funny.
Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah.
Does it treat the women any better in later issues?
No, even worse.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, great. Okay.
No. This in the era of the Me Too movement, this book does not not age
not at all.
well.
This is
No,
definitely
not
part
at all.
of the
No.
Me Too movement.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is definitely a broy book for sure, and under that microscope, it does not survive well at
So
all.
what you're saying is it gets 4 Kavanaughs.
It gets 4 out of Kavanaugh's.
It might get 4 Kavanaughs and 3 Trumps, so it does not do well.
And 4.
Right, well,
for what?
Devil's Threesome is a drinking game. Kavanaugh said so himself.
Oh.
Yeah, they were all talking.
I did catch that.
Yeah, he had a calendar out from his summer he spent. He's like, look here, and one of it was Devil's Threesome. And then asked him, like, on the sit-up floor, he's like, what is that? And Kavanaugh's, like, looking there, like, dead-faced, and leans forward and goes, drinking game. And just leaves it at that. I'm like, yeah, right.
Yeah. Aren't you a little old to be playing a drinking game? And we all have seen How I Met Your Mother. We know what a Devil's Three-Way is.
Yeah, that's right.
Writing grade.
Cool. For writing, for Mr. Kirkman, what is your grade? Mr. Maya.
I'm going to give it a C.
Okay.
Like I said before, nothing great, nothing awful. It's there.
Mr. Todd.
You know, it's a B. It's fine. I mean, once again, it's very surface level. There's not a lot of deep meaning to unpack, but it serviced the story quite well. There wasn't inconsistencies going on. There wasn't glaring plot holes or things like what the world happened to that. So everything wrapped up well, and he had, start, middle, and ending, and he did that well. So it's a B.
Mr. Adam.
I'll go with a B as well. Pretty much everything Todd said. This is, if you're not squeamish and you don't get offended easily, and you are looking to be, get into comics and you've never read it, it's kind of a good entry level one for that because, it's not like we're going to dive into Watchmen and, find all the metaphors and stuff in that. But I mean, it is what it is. It's fun. So.
And I'm going to also sit there with a B. Mr. Jason.
I'm going to say C+ as well. I think, it does the job, but it could have gone deeper. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Art grade.
For Moore and Staples, is there anybody else in the art team I need to take care of? I think that's about it. Yeah, Val Staples for colorist, and Tony Moore basically does everything else.
Yeah.
Oh, and assists on stories as well. But so for art, what is your grade, Mr. Jason? I
would say A-. I mean, it's beautiful. I never actually saw the black and white stuff, but the color looks fantastic. Yeah, it's good.
Mr. Todd.
Yeah, I'll go along with that. The art is really what sells the book. So
okay.
It's I give the A-, B+ because the art makes it sing.
I'm going to sit there also with an A-. For art, Mr. Adam.
A- as well for pretty much everything you already said.
Okay. And Mr. Maya.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a B+. Tony Moore knows how to draw a comic book.
Okay.
I dig his art, and that kept my attention a little bit more than the story did.
Final grades.
What is your grade, Mr. Adam?
B+. It's a fun book. It doesn't, it's not deep. It's just kind of, very sophomoric humor, which I tend to like. And it was a good time. And like I said, the art's really great. It's a self-contained story. So if you never want to go read any more of it, you don't have to.
I'm also at a B+ in general. Like I said, this is one of my gateway drugs. And so it was good enough to get me in. But on a second read, it's not as stellar as I remember it, but it's still kind of fun. Mr. Todd, what's your grade?
It's a B+. It makes me laugh. Even now, it just makes me laugh, and that's always worth something.
Mr. Jason.
I'm going to say B. It moves along very quickly. I was definitely engaged and had fun. Just wish there was a little bit more to it.
And then Mr. Maya.
I'm going to give it a C+. There isn't really much I can add on to it.
Grade point average.
And that gives us... Oh, wait, I did the math on that wrong. Hold on a second. Was that a C+ or C?
C+.
You need to carry
C+?
the one, Brian.
I know. I did the math wrong. Hold on. Okay, hold on. I'll start over.
Let's take some time. He went to art school.
I did go to art school.
The denominator with the numerator, and then divide by pi.
I just got a headache.
Okay, that gives us a B average. That's a 3.0 average. So that's we end up going with a general B on. That's pretty fair, actually. Yeah, I don't know why I started calculating out the grade point average, but I just find it interesting to see what it.
You nerd.
I know. If I do it right, the thing I've been trying to figure out is where to place my own vote so that I can try to do the math while whoever is talking last. I'm like, who's going to give the most explanation for their vote is what I'm trying to place my bets on. Is basically what I try to do.
So how's your track record on that one?
Not great, obviously. But I'll get it figured out in general. Cool. Does anybody else have any final parting thoughts about this book before we move on?
You know, as an introduction to comics and just the medium in general, it works pretty well. Yeah. And it's not a bad place to start. Sometimes people's like, oh, I wish to get into this medium. And it's like, well, the last thing you want to watch is like the epic, or going, oh, you like movies? Let's start with Das Boot. I'm like, no, you're going to shoot yourself in the head. So as a bit of a primer, it works.
Next week on Funny Books on Firewater.
So next week we are going to be reading Invincible. I didn't realize this, but Invincible came out slightly before The Walking Dead. They came out about the same year. Invincible definitely was one of my gateway drugs. When I was working at a theater company in Vermont, a friend of mine, I'd always want to get into comics, but I had run into the gatekeeping of like the super proto nerds who would, laugh you out of the comic book store if you tried to come in and buy something.
5 human Green Lanterns? What's wrong with you?
Oh, it wasn't even that. Like I don't know, Jason. I don't remember. I don't know if you were with us. I know that that Tyler was with me. I tried to go to a comic shop in Winston-Salem, and I tried to buy one of Kevin Smith's comic books, and they like laughed me out of the comic shop. Like they were elitist as fuck.
I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't get into comics until I left North Carolina, and I was up at a theater company in Vermont or in Connecticut, and a guy I worked with was a comic book reader, and so he took me, and he was the guy who took me into a decent comic shop that wasn't going to laugh me out of the room. But the 2 books that got me started were Invincible and Walking Dead, and then Battle Pope, and then I sort of built from there. But so Invincible is especially at the very beginning. Unfortunately, it's just recently ended. I love the book a lot, but after 25 collected trades, at least that are sitting on my shelf, the story recently ended, and the artist for most of the run, who is a neighbor of Todd's.
He's like 2 miles from my house.
Yeah,
never met him.
Not that Todd's stalking.
Such a stalker.
Not that you're stalking him.
Not at all.
But he's now drawing Spider-Man. A guy named Ryan Otley. Ryan Otley does not do the first couple of trades. I don't think.
No, it's Corey Walker does the first. I think
Corey Walker does
the first 1.5, maybe. I think
he does, and then he comes
on the second trade.
Yeah, and then Corey Walker comes back later as they get towards like the ending of it. He comes back and covers in again a little bit as well. But it's sort of the thing I always loved about Invincible, at least from the very beginning, is it was a really good example of classic superhero tropes being kind of breathed a new life. Does that sound fair to people who've read it?
Yeah.
Like it made it make sense why you need a secret identity, and why these things, these challenges, and the coming into your powers and all that kind of stuff. There was a lot of really fun there. It explores. I don't know if the first trade gets into the super team or not. It's been a while since I've read the first trade, so I get to go reread
How
it
many
with
issues
all
are
of
the
y'all.
First trade, because I have
5 or 6.
I have the Endium, which is like
gotcha.
What is it, like 40 issues?
48.
48
hold on a second. I
issues
can
in a book. I mean, this thing is massive.
4 years worth of book.
Yeah.
Also a fun little side note for those of you who have not read Invincible before and want to see something kind of fun. A vast majority, it's not 100%. When they get into some big epic events, it doesn't happen as more. But a vast majority of their trades are named after 80s and 90s sitcoms. So the first trade is called Family Matters. But like there's Facts of Life, and there's a bunch of different names there. It's the first 4 issues, Todd.
Okay, the first 4. All right.
First 4 issues. Yeah.
Yay.
Only 4 issues. That's going to be a nice, easy week. There's one other thing I wanted to mention on this, but maybe we'll talk about it when we get to. Well, we'll talk about it when we get to Walking Dead. Remind me about that.
Okay. Talk about that.
You're asking me to remember something.
And so, Brian, you need to tell me that one thing now that we're on Walking Dead.
Future Brian.
Yeah.
Make a note.
No. Okay, no, I'll just say it now. This is the thing I found interesting about Battle Pope. Battle Pope, there's 2 different things that Robert Kirkman does, and I just think it's interesting, is he does it in Battle Pope, and he does it a lot in Walking Dead, where he doesn't show the break in comic issues in the trades.
Oh, yeah.
They just go from 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1, and so like it reads like its overall graphic novel. Walking Dead literally goes from one trade into the next trade and just doesn't break. Like it just keeps going. You know what I mean? Like it always keeps going. And he kind of did that a little bit with Battle Pope as well.
They put the covers at the end of the trade.
Yeah, they put the covers at the end of the trade. Well, in Walking Dead, they don't put the covers in there at all. Like, not in my copies.
Really?
Yeah, no, I don't have them in my copies. In most of the trades, they don't put them in there at all. Whereas in Invincible, and I think we're doing Outcast as well, they'll actually put the break in between each issues, which is it's an interesting thing. There are two different ways of doing it, but it's interesting to have the same writer have like two different styles of which he does. So anyway, that's just something I had noticed about this last book. But so we'll be reading Invincible next week, which means we're going to have to talk to Andy Wilson because he wanted to join us for that book as well. So because he is a fan.
Recommendations.
Who has recommendations they would love to get off their chest?
I'll go.
Okay.
So I've been texting you guys all week about these 100-page giants that DC is doing. They are a Walmart exclusive. They're usually up near the front of the store, like by the Pokemon cards. But I've picked up all of the most recent ones, and I really dig them. Each issue has like a 12 or 14-page news story, and then the rest of the issue is all reprints. But if you're able to go out, I have the third issues of the four kind of ongoing that they have. There's Superman with a story by Tom King and Andy Kubert. And then there's the Batman with a story by Brian Bendis. So they're kind of switching their characters that they write the normal monthly books for these. Teen Titans, there's a Dan Jurgens Teen Titans story. Justice League, there's a Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner Wonder Woman story. And then this week they just came out with a Swamp Thing Halloween special. It's not one of their regular ongoing ones, but it's got a Swamp Thing story by Brian Azzarello and Greg Capullo.
So what I want to know is who at DC got to tell Scott Snyder that Capullo was working with someone else?
That was only for 12 pages.
Yeah, but I don't know. Those two are bonded at the hip, actually.
I mean, you got Snyder will work with a couple of guys because, artwork takes time, and writing, you just put a bunch of words down in a hurry.
That's exactly right, yes.
Thank you, Jake. That's the professional writer. No, once you flesh it out, it's just, there's a time thing there.
Yep.
I'm not saying it's...
what you're saying is it doesn't necessarily take a page a day to write a book, whereas consistently it takes a page a day for art, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to throw shade on the writers by any means.
Yes, you are. Don't lie.
But yeah...
Jason's going to come to Utah and throw punches.
I'll deserve it too.
I'm working out right now.
Okay.
So far on these issues that I've picked up, I'm really enjoying the stories on them all. I just wish there was more than 12 pages, but that's, I guess what'll keep me coming back.
All right.
So that's all in one giant? Is that what you're saying?
So no, that's individual. They have 4 monthly books. They have a Justice League book, a Superman book, a Teen Titans book, and a Batman book.
Okay.
For example, here, let me open up the Batman one here.
But so they're doing 12 issues. I think these aren't the 100-page giants.
These are the 100-page giants.
But so all these stories are within one 100-page giant.
Nope. So in the Batman giant, you get the first 12 pages of Bendis's news story, and then this is issue 3 of the Giants. Then it reprints part 3 of Hush, part 3 of a Nightwing New 52 story, and part 3 of a Harley Quinn story.
Gotcha. So they're trying to be gateway drugs with a bunch of different stories.
Yeah, that's what the 100-page giants have always been, though.
Yeah.
If you go back to the 70s in DC, that was the only way that you could read, older stuff, because they would reprint it in those 100-page giants.
Right, but it's only at Walmart. You can't go to your comic store.
These are only at Walmart. And yeah, like I said, they're usually up near the front. If you find the Pokemon or Magic cards, they have like a little display right there.
All right,
they have them.
Okay,
and they're $5 each.
Oh, nice. Not bad. For 12 pages of something, because there's other stuff probably there.
It's 100 pages.
Well, that is 100. Yes, but like 12 new pages or something is what I'm saying. Okay. Cool. Mr. Todd, do you have anything to recommend?
Yeah, so over the weekend I was locked up in a cabin with a bit of a cold. So I brought up with me The Complete Life and Death. This was a huge crossover event between on Dark Horse. So it had Aliens, Predator, Prometheus, and Aliens versus Predator. All did 4 issues apiece.
Was this this the Flesh and Stone, or
this is the sequel.
the other one?
This is the sequel to Fire and Stone. It's called
Fire and Stone.
Yeah, it's called Life and Death.
Yeah, that was.
And everything gets involved, and it's as a huge crossover event. It actually did a fantastic job, and everything. The artwork all sang across the whole bit, but basically you revisit from the planet the Prometheus ship was on, and you've got the Predators coming, wanting that xenotech. Some more engineers wake up, and there's a brood queen who is, because of all the black goo, they're having trouble with offspring. So they've got one last brood mare inside of a human, and everything is converging. It's kind of like a alien predator battle of the 5 armies going on. It's lots of fun.
Yeah, those
nice.
Alien Predator books that Dark Horse does. I don't think I've read a bad one. I've read some that are just okay, but for the most part, they're all a lot of fun.
Yeah, this one was.
It's kind of like the equivalent of the Archie books.
Yeah.
Right. I think it was Dan Abnett, Harold.
He did a bunch of those. Yeah.
Yeah, of this one, but it was a lot of fun. It's worth a read.
Mr. Adam, do you have anything to recommend?
Yeah, so this is a couple weeks after it came out. So I've always been a huge fan of Venom ever since I was a kid. I had before my car got towed and lost everything, which is a long story. I had like the first appearance of Venom. I had the first day when Eddie Brock thinks he killed Spider-Man, all kinds of fun stuff. So I was a little bit worried about the Venom movie. And I'll be the first to say it's not a great movie. It'd be hard pressed to even say that it's a good movie. It's a ton of fun though. It's we finally got a decent portrayal of the character on the screen instead of Topher Grace back in the Spider-Man 3 days.
I do have a question.
Sure.
Symbiote or symbiote?
Symbiote.
So in the trailer they said symbiote, and now in the movie they say symbiote.
Oh,
but it should be symbiote. They didn't use it the right way.
It's all wrong.
Yes, it's still all wrong.
Okay.
And if you're a huge comic book nerd and you're slavish to your origin stories, this does change it up. But the best part of this whole movie is the inner dialogue between Eddie Brock and Venom, because Venom is a catty bitch, and it's just wonderful because there's a scene where they're in this they're in this office building. It's like 50, 100 stories up, and Venom's like, all right, let's jump out the window, go. And then the next thing you see is Eddie pushing the button on an elevator, and Venom's like, pussy. So it's a lot of fun. There are 2 after credit scenes, one in the middle, one at the end. It's not a spoiler to say that the very, very last one is like a 5-minute scene from Into the Spider-Verse. So it's really, really cool.
So it's not really an in-credit scene. It's like an extended preview of...
but there is a really cool... mid-credit scene that sets it up for the sequel, which when I saw it, I'm like, this isn't going to, they won't make a sequel. It's already made its money back worldwide, and that includes marketing. So it's actually set the record for the highest grossing opening weekend of any film in October. So it did a lot better than they thought. They brought in double their projections. And
double their projections.
They were projecting 40 mil, took an 80.
All right.
Jeez.
So maybe we'll get another one. I'd like to see going forward that we can focus a little bit less on the originitis. But I give it a 7 out of 10. It's a lot of fun.
Cool. And then I'm going to recommend, since this is Kirkman's first book, I'm going to recommend one of his most recent. Trade just barely came out as we're recording this. It's probably been out for about a month now by the time you're hearing this. It's called Oblivion Song, and
that book is fantastic.
It's really fun. I've really enjoyed it. So I just finished the first trade. The basic pitch I can kind of give for it is that there was some sort of interdimensional rift, and the city of Pittsburgh, it's Pittsburgh or Philadelphia? Somewhere in Pennsylvania. I don't remember.
Let's say Pittsburgh. That one sounds crummier.
It's not a crummy thing. So it might be Philadelphia, to be honest with you. It gets sucked into a different dimension, and there's a small team of people who are still trying to go and rescue people out of that dimension and bring them back to ours. In that dimension, in the city, there are all these crazy, weird monsters, and people are having like PTSD when they get back, and like the government's sort of given up on all the people that were there. And one of the guys who's going there to seek out these people is looking for someone in particular, and you eventually find out that it's actually his brother. And so it's part of him searching for his brother and what's going on with these people, because there's still hundreds of people that have been lost in there that he's still looking for, and he doesn't believe that all of them are being by monsters yet. But it's got a little bit of Invincible's Aliens, and it's got a little bit of The Walking Dead Survivor kind of thing. It's kind of an interesting hybrid of some of Kirkman's other work, to be honest with you, but I really enjoyed it. Maya, you've read it. What are your thoughts?
It's been a little bit since I read it because I got a early copy of it, but I remember it just being a lot of fun and wanting to know what happens next.
Okay.
But yeah, I've only read that first trade.
Gotcha.
I want that to be the next TV show they make. Next Kirkman TV show.
Yeah, that's a possibility. When we get into Outcast, I heard an interview with Kirkman about that, which I'll tell you about it as well. Cool. Does anybody else have anything else they want to say, talk about? You guys all good?
I think we're pretty good.
I'm good.
Cool. Awesome. Jason, thanks again for joining us. Hopefully we were gentle on your first podcasting experience.
But still no lube.
I know.
Soft and caring.
we used some spit.
Yeah.
Spit and sweat.
I'm just glad that the
Don't mention how
Scorpion
classy.
pepper rod wasn't involved.
Oh, yeah. That was a terrible text message conversation that was happening on the side. Cool. Well, then that'll do it for this week. So join us again next week for Invincible as we continue on our Robert Kirkman month. Thanks, everybody. We will see you later.
Bye.
So that happened. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode. This band of knuckleheads will be back next week with a new episode. Until then, you can find them on Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr as Funny Books and Firewater, and on Twitter as @FirewaterCast. Go to funnybooksandfirewater.com for the most up-to-date information, as well as cocktail recipes from this and past episodes. Thank you for joining us. And until next week, support your local comic shop, tip your bartender well, and stay hydrated.